the darkest tale in Beedle the Bard and why Hogwarts fears it. In the final chapter of the Harry Potter saga, Albus Dumbledore bequeaths a seemingly simple gift to Hermione Granger, a small, ancient-looking book of children's stories. This book, The Tales of Beedle the Bard, is the wizarding world's answer to the Brothers Grimm, or Hans Christian Andersen, a collection of fables and fairy tales passed down through generations. Wizarding children grow up with these stories, but for those raised in the Muggle world, they are an introduction to the moral landscape of magic. And just like our own fairy tales, not all of them are meant to be comforting. When you think of the tales of Beedle the Bard, you probably think of charming fables. Stories like The Fountain of Fair Fortune or The Wizard and the Hopping Pot are the wizarding world's equivalent of Cinderella, familiar bedtime stories that teach kids about kindness and cleverness. At the heart of it all is the tale of the three brothers, the story that gave us the Deathly Hallows and fueled the ambitions of wizards like Grindelwald and Voldemort. But hidden among these well-known tales is one that most wizarding parents probably skip. It's a brutal, genuinely disturbing story that doesn't teach a comforting lesson. This is the Warlock's hairy heart. It's not about virtue being rewarded. It's about what happens when a wizard decides love is a weakness and chooses to literally carve it out of his own body. It's a tale so grim that its philosophy is arguably more terrifying than the story itself. So, let's get into the story. It begins with a handsome and wealthy young warlock who is disgusted by his friends falling in love, seeing their emotions as an embarrassing weakness. Determined to make himself immune, he turns to the dark arts and does the unthinkable. He physically cuts his own heart from his chest. He then locks the still-beating organ in an enchanted crystal casket. Freed from emotion, the warlock grows cold and proud, but his pride takes a hit when he overhears servants pitying him. So, out of pure vanity, he decides he must take a wife, not for love, but to inspire envy. He finds a beautiful maiden and courts her with empty, poetic words. She is both fascinated and repelled, sensing a deep coldness beneath his charm. Finally, she confronts him, saying she can't believe his declarations of love until she knows he actually has a heart. Pleased to show off, the warlock leads her to his dungeon and unveils the casket. Inside, the heart is grotesque, shriveled, decayed, and covered in thick, black hair. Horrified, the maiden begs him to put it back in his chest, believing it will allow him to finally feel true love. The warlock agrees, and once the hairy, degenerated heart is back inside him, she embraces him. But it's too late. The heart, having become savage and twisted, is no longer capable of love. Instead, it's filled with a perverse and violent craving. In the story's horrific climax, the warlock seizes a dagger, cuts open the maiden's chest, and rips out her pure heart. The tale ends with him dead on the dungeon floor, crouched over her body, having tried and failed to replace his own monstrous heart with hers. Now, the most obvious parallel here is, of course, Lord Voldemort and his Horcruxes. The warlock removing his heart is a clear thematic precursor to Voldemort splitting his soul. Both acts are born from the same desire for invulnerability, one from emotion, the other from death. As Dumbledore himself notes, in seeking to become superhuman, the warlock only succeeded in making himself inhuman. The hairy heart is a perfect symbol of that beast-like decay. But if we only focus on the Horcrux connection, we miss the story's deeper, more insidious point. The true horror isn't just the gore. It's the philosophy that power comes from emotional detachment. And if you look closely, that philosophy starts to look frighteningly similar to policies institutionalized by the Ministry of Magic. Think about Azkaban, a prison that weaponizes despair through its Dementor guards. That's the warlock's philosophy on an institutional scale. This pattern of sanctioned cruelty pops up again and again. The systemic prejudice against giants, the enslavement of house elves, and the marginalization of werewolves all stem from a similar lack of empathy. This heartless approach was perfected under figures like Dolores Umbridge and peaked with the Muggle-born Registration Commission, a legal body dedicated to persecuting a part of its own population. The warlock's private act of cutting out his compassion became official policy. So why would the wizarding world fear this story? It's because the warlock's hairy heart is more than a fairy tale. It's a warning. It teaches that rejecting empathy is a viable, if monstrous, path to power. While other Beedle tales reward kindness, this one presents a stark, terrifying alternative that validates the worldview of dark wizards everywhere. The story exposes the wizarding world's greatest vulnerability, its capacity for creating its own monsters by celebrating detachment as strength. Hogwarts champions the idea that love is the most powerful magic of all, but this tale is an uncomfortable reminder that that philosophy has a dark, powerful rival. The Warlock isn't just a monster in a book, he's a dark reflection in a mirror the wizarding world is afraid to look into for too long. It has no hero and offers no redemption, only a brutal warning about sacrificing humanity for the illusion of power. It shows us that the line between a magical fable and the dark history of the Ministry of Magic is terrifyingly thin. The Warlock's path is a temptation that lingers, a dark potential that the wizarding world would rather pretend doesn't exist. Thanks for supporting. I want to wish you a very happy new year.